The desert sun blazed mercilessly over the Afghan terrain, its heat distorting the horizon. Captain James Carter crouched behind a crumbling wall, his rifle gripped tightly in his hands. The air was thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder and dust. His unit had been ambushed, and the chaos of battle raged around him. Amid the cacophony of gunfire and shouting, a faint whimper caught his attention. James turned his head, scanning the rubble.
Like the video and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to turn on the notification bell so that you get our videos daily.
There, hidden beneath a shattered concrete slab, was a German Shepherd puppy, no more than a few months old. Its fur was matted with dirt and blood, and one of its hind legs was clearly injured. The puppy's eyes locked onto James's, filled with fear and desperation. Without thinking, James crawled toward the puppy, ignoring the bullets whizzing overhead. He gently lifted the slab and scooped the trembling animal into his arms. The puppy let out a soft whine, nuzzling into James's chest as if it knew it was safe. "Hang on, buddy," James whispered. "I've got you." That day, James saved the puppy, and in many ways, the puppy saved him too. He named him Max, and from that moment on, they were inseparable. Max became more than a dog. He was James's lifeline, his confidant, and his reason to keep going during the darkest days of war. 10 years later, James stood in the quiet living room of his small suburban home, staring at the folded American flag on the mantelpiece. His military career was behind him, but the scars, both visible and invisible, remained. The nightmares still came, though less frequently now, thanks to Max. Max, now a full-grown German Shepherd, lay at James's feet, his head resting on his paws. His once glossy coat was flecked with gray, and his movements were slower, but his eyes were as alert and loyal as ever. He was James's constant companion, his anchor in a world that often felt unsteady. James knelt down and scratched Max behind the ears. "You're getting old, buddy," he said with a soft smile, "but you're still the best damn dog in the world." Max thumped his tail against the floor, his way of saying, "I know, asterisk." Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. James had a routine. Morning runs with Max, volunteering at the local veterans center, and quiet evenings spent reading or watching television. It was a simple life, but it was enough. Until the letter arrived. James sat at the kitchen table, the envelope in his hands. The return address a law firm in the city made his stomach churn. He tore it open and read the contents, his heart sinking with each word. It was a notice from his ex-wife Laura. She was suing for custody of Max. James's hands trembled as he set the letter down. Laura had left him 2 years ago, unable to handle the toll his PTSD had taken on their marriage. She had moved on quickly, remarrying and starting a new life. James had thought they were done with each other, but now she wanted Max. "She can't do this," James muttered, his voice tight with anger. "She can't take you away from me." Max, sensing his distress, padded over and rested his head on James's knee. James buried his fingers in Max's fur, trying to steady himself. He couldn't lose Max. Not after everything they'd been through together. The courtroom was cold and sterile, the air thick with tension. James sat at the defendant's table, his fists clenched in his lap. Across the room, Laura sat with her lawyer, her expression unreadable. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, adjusted her glasses and addressed the room. "This is a highly unusual case," she said. "Custody disputes typically involve children, not animals. However, given the unique circumstances, I've agreed to hear both sides." Laura's lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, my client has a deep affection for Max. She was part of his life for many years, and believes she can provide a stable, loving home for him. Captain Carter, while undoubtedly attached to the dog, is a single man with a history of mental health issues. We believe Max would be better off with my client." James's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Sarah, rose to her feet. "Your Honor, Max is not just a pet to my client. He's a service dog, trained to assist Captain Carter with his PTSD. Separating them would be detrimental to both parties." Captain Carter has provided a stable and loving home for Max for over a decade. There's no reason to uproot the dog now." The judge listened carefully, her expression neutral. "I'll need time to consider the evidence and make a decision. Court is adjourned." As the room emptied, James knelt beside Max, who had been lying quietly under the table. "It's going to be okay, buddy," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if he believed it himself. The days that followed were agonizing. James barely slept, his mind racing with worry. Max seemed to sense his anxiety, staying close by his side and offering quiet comfort. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. James stood in the courtroom, his heart pounding as the judge read her decision. After careful consideration, the judge began, "I've decided to award custody of Max to Miss Laura Carter. While I understand the bond between Captain Carter and the dog, the evidence suggests that Miss Carter can provide a more stable environment." James felt as though the floor had been ripped out from under him. He turned to Max, who was sitting beside him, his tail wagging uncertainly. "No," James whispered, his voice breaking. "No, please." Laura approached, a leash in her hand. "I'll take good care of him, James," she said softly. James dropped to his knees, wrapping his arms around Max. "I'm so sorry, buddy," he choked out, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry." Max licked his face, as if trying to reassure him, but it was no use. Laura clipped the leash to Max's collar and gently led him away. James watched, helpless, as the dog he loved more than anything disappeared through the courtroom doors. The days turned into weeks, and James struggled to adjust to life without Max. The house felt empty, the silence unbearable. He tried to distract himself with work and volunteering, but nothing could fill the void Max had left behind. One evening, as James sat alone on the porch, a car pulled into the driveway. It was Laura. She stepped out, holding Max's leash. The dog bounded toward James, his tail wagging furiously. James' heart leapt. "Max!" he cried, dropping to his knees as Max tackled him with joyful licks. Laura smiled faintly. "I thought about what you said in court," she said, "about how much he means to you. I realized I can't take him away from you. He's your family." James looked up at her, tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. Laura nodded. "Take care of him, James." As she drove away, James hugged Max tightly, feeling whole for the first time in weeks. "Welcome home, buddy," he said. "Welcome home." James and Max settled back into their routine, their bond stronger than ever. James knew there would still be challenges ahead, but with Max by his side, he felt ready to face them. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, James scratched Max behind the ears. "You're stuck with me, old boy," he said with a smile. Max thumped his tail against the floor, his way of saying, "I wouldn't have it any other way." Asterisk. And for the first time in a long time, James felt at peace.